All right, everybody, welcome. Today I have a very special guest today. Guys,
Yeah,
if you guys don't have a podcast, if you guys are not doing your out marketing and so forth, you're missing out. Today we have a guest, Mr. Brandon. So Brandon, I do not want to butcher your last name. So but please tell me.
it's all good. Yeah, it's French, and I've heard probably every variation of it you could probably think of. So my last name is Archambault, Brandon Archambault. Yeah, how's it
Archambault.
going, Hector?
You're going great,
Yeah.
great. So Mr. Archambault reached out to me and said, "Hey Hector, I saw your content on your podcast, and I would love to bring you on, interview you, and I would love for you to do the same thing for me." And I am, guys. And again, this is just gives me content, and the information we bring out here is gonna give me more content. So if you guys are not out there doing it, you guys are missing out. Now, if you guys want me to be on your podcast, hit me up. I'll do that as well, right, Mr. Brandon as well. I'm pretty sure he's not gonna have a problem with that. So,
Oh yeah, 100%.
so today we want to talk to you a little bit about your origin story, why you started, and how you and why we started, and how we started. And the reason we're
Yeah.
bringing this to today, guys, is because we want you guys to make sure you understand that no matter what situation you are in your business, in your life, in your career, there's an opportunity to get started on entrepreneurship. And that's kind of what we're going to touch on today. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mr. Brandon. You guys already know a little bit about me. Mr. Brandon, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
Welcome.
So yeah, for sure. Hey, thanks. So Hector, so I reached out to you because I listened to your most recent podcast episode. You're driving in your car. You're talking about um, how in the face of death, basically, there's nothing that can stand in your way, right? You had a person that you're talking to, and it was about the perspective of what other people think. And as soon as you get rid of that idea of what other people might think about, that kind of gives you a freedom to be able to be yourself and go and do what you want to do, right? And so my background is I come from sales, and I've done virtually every type of sales that you could imagine. I've been a general manager at a gym, and so I've sold gym memberships, which is a highly aggressive sales environment. I've been a recruiter at Headhunter, which is more B2B, but I've cold called top executives, CEOs of companies, pitched our services, and then essentially secured service agreements to work in that capacity. I've worked in credit restoration. I've worked in the banking industry. I've been an investment advisor. And so all of these jobs, quote unquote, they all come back to sales. It's sales, right? You change the title, but it's all sales. And what I realized early on is that the fundamentals of sales are transferable from industry to industry. It doesn't matter what you do. And sales are the lifeblood of every organization that exists out there. And so with that, I kind of was focused on just building my reputation within, whatever organization I was in from being a salesperson. But I have, and I'm sure that you can relate to this, Hector, it's like that fire that drives you, that says, hey, you can do more, right? Like there's other things that you can be doing. And that's sort of what pushed me in the direction of entrepreneurship and really marketing, right? It's no secret, if you go on Facebook, you're basically bombarded with ads from people all over the world marketing one thing or another with regards to coaching or how to market online, whatever the niche is. And so from there I said, well, what is this all about? Let me try to dive into this a little bit. And what I learned was basically, look, I've got the skills to be able to build a business and scale a business and grow a business with the sales ability. You connect that to a marketing platform or marketing techniques and marketing skills on the back end. And those two skill sets alone are enough to be able to drive entrepreneurship and build your own business. So the question I had was, well, if I have these skills, why would I focus my energy and efforts on somebody else's business and somebody else's dream? Why not go out and create an impact on the world with my own passion, the things that I care about, and help people and provide value in the way that I want to? And there's really no better time to do that. And that's sort of what drove me into the area of entrepreneurship. And here I am now. So I founded a company called Shackle Breakers, which is exactly set out to do that, to help. It can help anybody really, but it's really geared towards salespeople who are working inside of an organization that have that similar type of passion or that fire inside of them that can do more, right? And it's about making that next jump and going to entrepreneurship from just strictly a sales environment. And that's really what I'm about. We talked a little bit about that, Hector, and you come from a programming background, which is completely different. And yet you and I are, from our basic conversation there, it seems like we're pretty similar in terms of mindset and the reasons why we're creating our businesses. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, no, and it's funny when you mentioned that, Eric. You think like, why can't I do this for myself? And I'll be honest, whoever's listened to my first episode way back, and if you haven't, you guys should listen to those. But one of those episodes when I started, I realized that my supervisor was dumber than I was. I realized I was like, this guy's an idiot. But then I stopped and I was like, but I'm the idiot because I'm taking orders from him. Right. So at that moment, I realized there had to be a change, right? I realized that there was an issue and it had to change, and it was me. So
Yeah,
I came home that day
totally.
and I told my wife, guess what? I quit my career job. It was funny. I should go back and listen to that one. But anyways, Mr. Man, today it's very important. We talk about career changing and looking forward and following your dreams and everything. And it always seems like, yeah, I can't do that. Or yeah, I wish I could. Or I don't have the time, right? I don't have the time. I don't have the money. Right now, time seems to be right, more than extra, right? Everybody seems to have a little bit more free time. But
Yeah,
also, people are home in their comfort zone. This is all my opinion, guys, right? So they're home in their comfort zone, and they're having to work for the man, right? They're having to log in and not be with their family and so forth, and doing the job that you say they just don't like anymore, or they just don't have the passion for anymore. And
yeah,
now they're realizing that, hey, if I'm going to be doing this, how come I can just do this for something that I really like?
yeah, totally.
And that's where
Right.
and that's where we come in. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm big on personal development. I don't know if you are, Hector, but like I'm big on personal development, reading, and just always expanding my mind just to see what's possible, right? And then from that, you kind of start learning about things like purpose and passion, and you start following leaders like I'm an Apple fanboy, but guys like Steve Jobs, right? Like I look highly up to him, but Bill Gates too, and all of these entrepreneurs, Richard Branson, right? All these guys that are impacting the world in their own way. It's because they're doing so from a position of purpose, right? And passion. They found something that they care about, and that's ultimately what drives their mission. Whereas, for me as a salesperson, and going through that in my life, the main motivator behind that was always money, right? That's why you get paid commissions, is because you're always driving after money. But there's got to be something greater connected to that. And that's where the entrepreneurship comes in. As soon as you have that thing where it's like, well, this doesn't really serve my needs. Like I'm not impacting the world in the way that I want to. And I'm not talking about like going on the same scale as like Elon Musk, but just helping people with something that you're good at, or something that that other people don't know, and connecting that message with them, I think is super important, especially in right now, like you're talking about with the way the world is right now, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was listening to an episode of earlier that's actually recorded April 15th, which is I think is today actually, and it was Mark Cuban. So you mentioned very executive, very very powerful CEOs and very proficient CEOs, and Mark Cuban is one of them. And
Yeah,
I was listening to him, and he was mentioning his term was America 2.0. And that's something that when I knew you and I were going to talk, that's something that I wanted to bring out and touch
yeah,
that topic with us, because to you and to our listeners, what does American 2.0 look like? America 1.0, which was World War II, when everybody started doing the factories and sewing, and everybody started getting those company jobs. And 2.0, we're not going to be able to be there anymore and interact anymore and socialize as close as we used to do. So what's it going to be? How is it going to impact our business, and how can we pivot? Right. So I was going to ask you, where are you looking forward to as far as 2.0? How is your business going to pivot?
yeah. So that's a good question. I think the pivot itself is starting a business, right? Because are you familiar with Russell Brunson? I'm assuming you must be.
Of course.
I looked at your Facebook page a little bit. Okay. So he tells this story, and this is a good way to be able to demonstrate this. He tells the story of when ClickFunnels, I think it wasn't even ClickFunnels yet. It was before they even launched ClickFunnels. But he had this massive operation where he had like 60 something employees under him. And what they were doing was basically they had some sort of lead offer. They sent out something in order to capture contact information, because people expressed interest in this initial offer. And then what happened was they would get the contact information, phone number, and then they would pretty much cold call these new clients of theirs and pitch them completely something, not necessarily unrelated, but a high ticket, something that is on top of whatever their initial offer was. But the people weren't expecting the phone call. And what they ended up doing was ticking a lot of people off, because they said, look, like I just wanted this one thing, and now you're calling me out of the blue trying to pitch something completely I didn't even ask for. And so from there, when they created ClickFunnels and they launched their company and sort of grew it into this thing that it is now, they scaled back their sales team. And so the message for salespeople is this is the sort of the reality that we're living in now. They had 60 some odd salespeople before, and that was driving the revenue and the growth of the company. They ended up restructuring, and scaled back, ended up, I think, firing like 68 of those 70 salespeople, retained 2 of them, and they were able to scale at greater numbers, grow revenue at greater numbers, and had lower costs as a result of it because of the technology that was being built into their business. And that's where we're at now, is that you as an individual, right, anybody that's listening to this and sort of has that desire, they're into personal development and they're into being able to assist and help people with whatever their expertise is. We're at a point now where your talents and your individual unique skills has crossroads with technology, and technology is now allowing you to leverage your time and put your message out there in a way that you would have never been able to do even 10 years ago. And in light of, we're basically, on stay-at-home orders right now, and everyone's sort of doing this self-distancing or social distancing. It's a great time in light of all that stuff to, one, recognize how the world is changing. 2, the world is not going to be the same as it was before. And it's 3, given an opportunity to people, employees, entrepreneurs, anybody out there to really look at this and identify how things are actually shifting. And you now can have a voice and add your own flair and your own spin and really serve the passion and purpose that you think is important.
Yeah. So let's follow that there. So find your flair, right? Find your passion. So right now, everybody's at home. You mentioned it. We know that I'm working from home. Everybody's doing it. So let's talk about the reach that we're able to do now with a little bit of paid marketing, right? So if you have a business, if you don't have a business, obviously if you have a business and you need to make some revenue, this is the way to go. If you don't have a business, if you have a viable product, then this is the way for you to go. But we're talking about paid marketing, guys, all right? So we do the pay-per-clicks. And to be honest with you, for a very long time, I was very against pay-per-clicks. It wasn't my way to play. I thought it was just a little too expensive over time, and you would never really win. But understanding the way marketing was changing, and once Facebook got stockholders, you knew you needed to play to pay, right? And that was the way you needed to do it. So we started doing it. And what I realized was, if you have a right target audience in mind, it can really convert. And the cost per click can be really good. As far as like what it cost per click, guys, we're referring to like what does it cost you every time a client clicks on that, right? So that was back then. My question to you, Brandon, is what does it look like now? I know you and I mentioned we're doing Facebook ads. I have some numbers, but I want to hear some numbers from you. What's your thing? What's your opinion? Let's go there. What's your opinion about paying for ads at this time?
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great question, because I think that's in a lot of people's minds. If you have any experience with online marketing at all, and you do paid search or you do paid marketing at all, then this is the big question right now is, should I spend more or should I spend less, right? There's really 2 fields of thought here, and I'll tell you which one I'm in just a moment. So the one field of thought is, if you're running ads beforehand, when the economy is good, everybody's, making good income and everything, then you're running ads and it kind of is the status quo. Obviously, this huge pandemic hit and people are losing their jobs. Now the question is, well, should I run ads? Because my thought process is, well, maybe people have lost their jobs so they don't have money. And so therefore I'm not going to be able to generate the leads that I was able to before. And I think that's not the correct way to approach that. In fact, because of that and that sort of mentality out there's a lot of marketers or businesses now that have cut back on their costs, and they're not spending as much on basically marketing their business as they were before. But it gives an opportunity to entrepreneurs now who are starting up, they're building the brand and they're trying to make an impact, because the cost per click, the cost per lead, the cost associated with marketing have gone down now because there's not as many people that are doing it in a time like this. And so it's the perfect time to sort of launch pad yourself out because of that, right? And so it's sort of flipped this model upside down. And people before, I think, were thinking, well, the market's saturated. There's no way I'm going to be able to get my message out there. And so a lot of people have scaled back on their spending now. But I think it's probably the best time to actually start doing that, because people are stopping to spend, right? And they're cutting back on their costs because of that. But the results aren't cutting back, is what my point is with that. So you're able to actually generate still good results.
Correct. Facebook just put out a report a few days ago that it was an unexpected amount of traffic to their app and to their website. So it's really more affordable to reach more people right now. And that's
and
really
you want to hear, sorry to interrupt, you want to hear something interesting about that is I think it was on YouTube. I saw Facebook advertising on YouTube, and I saw Facebook advertising on Instagram. Of course, they own Instagram, but I don't remember Facebook specifically advertising their own business, which is kind of weird, but maybe they have been. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't see it, but.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned the giants or people are holding back their money, I read a quote earlier on Instagram. Um, the travel agency Expedia, the CEO mentioned something like, "Hey, we usually spend about 5 billion per year on advertising." He said, "I doubt that we'll spend more than 1 billion this year." So I mean, talk about dialing back.
Right. Totally. Right. And a lot of people are doing that. Big companies and the one man show, one woman show too, right? And that's kind of where we're at right now. But it's a unique time, but it's also a time. The things are going to change, like without a doubt, right? We're not going to go back to how things were before. But to that point too, I mean, it's an opportunity to pivot, right? And for people that identify that things are going to change, if you can adapt to that and you pivot with it, then I think that on the other side of this whole thing, you're going to be in a very good position. That's what I
Well,
think.
now let's talk about that now, right? Let that be our topic that we end is with. What does American 2.0 look like? When I mean that, it's like, what kind of businesses do you think will arise from this? And for you listeners, if you are in business and your business can pivot towards this, please consider. And if you're not in business and you're thinking about joining business, maybe you can take one of these businesses and run with it. But Brandon, what do you think? And I'll start off, and that way maybe I can just get your mind rolling. So
Sure.
these are not my ideas, guys. I heard them from Mark Cuban, but he said if you hear them, if you want them, go with them. But for example, those bubble balls, those big bubble balls, the individual, and bubble ball soccer,
Yeah.
right? Bubble ball soccer, bubble ball football, whatever, bubble ball tag, and they're social distancing. I mean, you're not close to them, right? You can't touch them and so forth. And I thought that was very, very, very smart or unique, right? He was just like, just think about that. And then he mentioned technology and AR, right? How are we gonna know that bench has been cleaned, right? How do we know that that area is clean for my grandma to sit in? He mentioned, right? That was his kind of example. So he was saying, what are we gonna have, like apps? Do we scan it? Is it AR? What's gonna happen? So again, that's kind of where we're thinking of AR. And I have a few ideas that I'm working with, but I would love to hear yours.
Well, I mean, off the cuff, it's hard to say. I would say the first thing that comes to mind right now, and a lot of businesses are already adapting and changing to this, but honestly, grocery delivery services are becoming rampant. I've had my hometown. I'm Canadian, right? I live in the States now, but I'm Canadian. And I used to work at this restaurant called Earl's. I worked there for a long time when I was going to university. And of course, being a restaurant, they're closed, right? And so they don't have clients coming into the restaurant. They're doing takeout orders and stuff, but obviously their business has dipped down. But they've been smart. They've pivoted their business. Now what they're doing is grocery delivery services. So they'll actually go do the shopping and stuff and deliver groceries. And that's how small businesses are shifting right now, a lot of them. But even as an individual or a partnered entrepreneur, ship, you can do that kind of thing too, right? So that's one that kind of comes to mind immediately, is that type of thing. I think that personal protective gear or more like sanitation type stuff, people are going to be a lot more cognizant of that now as well. So anything on the fringe of those types of products is definitely going to be something people are interested in. Of course, the masks and stuff, I think more people are going to be wearing those. I lived in Beijing for a year back in 2011, 2012. And obviously it's completely different culture than ours, being over in Western society, but everybody there already way back then was wearing masks, and it's because the pollution is so heavy in China. But obviously now we're talking about disease and bacteria and stuff. I think a lot more people are going to be cognizant of that, and so masks are going to be something I think a lot more people are going to be wearing regularly. So anything related to that type of stuff obviously is going to be, I don't think it's going to be going away for any time soon, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good perspective. Also, one thing I was thinking is maybe going back to where gas stations weren't self-serve, right? They were actually service stations, and somebody
Yeah.
would pump your gas and check your stuff, and you never had to get off and interact with anybody, and pay through an app or whatever we can do nowadays. So
Yeah.
I thought that I was like, man, that would be a really good way for you to start a business or for gas stations to kind of drive more traffic.
Yeah, for sure. And like on the larger scales, even like you think about the movie industry, right? They've started testing things where they're doing $20 movies that would have been released in theaters, but because you can't go to the theater, they're doing them on home video. So I mean, if they're making revenue and profit that way, then they're going to continue doing that even after the fact. So things like movie theater experience, that's going to change, I think, too, in the future. Sporting events, man, lots of things. I think like majority of industries are going to be impacted by this. We're going to go a lot more digital. And so companies are going to get more reliant on having the ability for employees to work from home. And it's the same thing for entrepreneurship, right? If you have like a physical office you go to all the time, if you can figure out a way to make it a lot more digital or remove yourself from the business so you don't have to physically be somewhere at any time and do things, using Zoom or whatever it is, then that's going to be sort of the direction of things for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard for a lot of these companies to get their employees back at the office at 7 a.m. after they've been doing Zoom.
True, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I can do it from home. Why am I stuck in traffic?
It's true. No, for sure. That's for sure. So
yeah. No, that's great. That's great information for you guys. Again, thinking about where to go with your business. If you're already running one, if you're not, think about one of these businesses or have your own idea, but launch it. Another thing that I'm messing with AR. I don't know if you're familiar with Merge Cube.
I'm not. No.
Merge Cube. I think I have it inside, showing it to my kid. But basically, you can basically Google it, right? But basically, it's just a little foam cube, and it has code, kind of like a chip, like a microchip code. And what you do is you scan your phone to it, and it pops up a hologram. And
cool.
In that hologram, there's some that show you like the whole solar system and the moon and the sun. And as you rotate the cube, the whole planet rotate and
cool.
Everything changes. It's really cool, and then they have some for health. And so my idea was like kind of getting that for businesses, kind of showing them how to, you scan it and it shows you how to paint. Like I was thinking, this is what I was thinking. And maybe you can kind of pitch in, and if you guys listening, beat me to it. Go ahead, feel free. There's room for everyone. So basically, just kind of thinking like how to paint a car. If you come to me and say, "Hey, I wanted you to paint my car red," and I'm like, "Okay, well, you can just upload a file of your car to the cube, and I got a format where you can paint it, and then you look at what color looks best." And that something like that.
So I mean, there's for augmented reality, and I know this exists out here because I've used it before. But I think even like IKEA, they have an augmented reality app where you can actually shop on their site through your phone, and then pick a product or whatever, and then see how it looks in your phone by holding your phone up to an area of your house, and it'll actually put the product there, right? So you see how it looks and everything. You kind of get an idea for the size of it and whether it'll place in there, right? So definitely that stuff's coming down the pipe for sure. I'm excited for that. I think that's cool.
Yeah, we gotta stay on it. All right, Brandon. Well, thank you so much for your time today. You guys, thank you for listening. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Great. Thanks, Hector. I appreciate it.
Thank you.